All right, Big Bang. Today is Friday. It's August 6th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. True Crime Friday. True Crime Alley. Back in studio. Foot's feeling fine enough. How are we?
Back in studio this week. Less broken than last week.
Less broken?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Did it heal?
I mean, I can drive now.
Oh,
a
that's
little
good.
bit. I can drive up to 20 minutes at a time.
Well, see, what's the logic on that?
This is what I'm saying. It's like 20 minutes it could take me to get like 1 mile here. Or like
Yeah,
if I'm out in the
technically,
suburbs,
yes.
I could go like 10 miles.
Yes.
So depends.
So
on
with
where
a
I'm going.
boot, it's like, all right, you got a boot, but we're going to let you drive, but you get 20 minutes.
Yeah. Then it has to go back in the boot, which, I mean, like,
you take it out of the boot.
yeah, you can't drive
Oh,
with the boot
sorry.
on.
I was like, I mean, you
Yeah.
probably could. No?
Probably not well. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
don't
going
have
to try it.
The flexibility.
Yeah, you just like, it would, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be tough. Okay, all right. Now I understand more. I was like,
Yeah.
I thought it was just a boot thing. All right.
No. Take it out, put it back in, all that good stuff.
There you go. Nevertheless, I do want to talk about Miller Lite to start the show, Allie,
Hit me with it.
because summer's here, still summer. August is summer. September's
Yes.
still going to be a nice weather here.
Yes.
There's going to be plenty of good outdoor concerts. You know, people will be rocking on Lakeshore Drive. It'll be, you'll be at the beach. You'll be floating on the river, whatever. You deserve more moments to just do you. So, you don't have to pretend like you're craving some fancy schmancy drink when all you want is a great tasting beer that won't fill you up. And that's Miller Lite, okay? So there's a million options now. You could just keep walking down these aisles and see a million things. But you always know whatever which corner you turn, you'll always see a nice display of Miller Lite. So make sure you're enjoying a nice Miller Lite this summer. And next time you're getting ready to enjoy cold ones with your crew, go to MillerLite.com/redline to find the delivery options near you. Or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere that they sell beer. Like I said, it's Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Also, I want to say Roman. Roman is here, and they want to make sure that you're Roman ready. So Roman ready means that you're, ready to go when the time is ready to go. Okay, so the world's opening back up. Many new thrills on the horizon. Whether you've been in that relationship for years or you're just getting started or excited to get back out there, meet new people. When the moment comes to you, you want to be ready. You want to be Roman ready. So go to GetRoman.com/Barstool now to talk to a U.S. licensed healthcare professional about erectile dysfunction if you struggle in that area. Okay, so they're going to give you a free online evaluation, and they could it's all done from the comfort and privacy of your own home. And they're also great about making sure when it comes to you, it's discreet and unmarked packaging, and it is free day shipping. And did I mention it's a U.S. licensed healthcare professional that will prescribe this to you? Roman is not just some rinky-dink company. It's a real deal. So go to GetRoman.com/Barstool today. If you're prescribed, get 50% off your first month of ED treatment. Make sure you're ready to have confidence and control this summer. Be Roman ready. All right, Allie, what are we doing today?
All right, Eddie. We are doing the murder of Samantha Josephson, which actually is another listener suggestion, but also it's a case that wrapped up really recently, like within the past month or so. So we got to kind of see it come full circle. Have you heard of this one?
No, I have not.
Samantha Josephson was a college student at the University of South Carolina, and she was just getting ready to graduate, was literally going out with her friends one night in March 28th, 2019 to celebrate her graduation. Now, she was in Columbia, South Carolina. Josephson and her friends went out to some bars in the area. They had themselves a night. And around, 1, after 1, before 2, their night started to wrap up. Bars start to close down. It's last call. They were going to head home. Now, Samantha did what any other person would do leaving the bar. She ordered an Uber. Now, Samantha ordered an Uber for herself. She was going home alone, so she had split ways with her friends, and her friends had seen her last after 1 p.m. waiting on the street outside the bar for her Uber, which right off the bat, you should never leave your friends alone after drinking, waiting for an Uber, and or let them get in an Uber alone, first of all. But this was not her friend's fault, and this was not Samantha's fault either. So Samantha waited for her Uber to come. She waited outside the Hardin Street bar. Now, at 2:09, Samantha was seen on surveillance tape getting into a 2017 black Impala. This is what Samantha thought was her Uber car, but was actually not her Uber at all. So that is actually the last time that she is ever seen alive as well. So she gets into this car. The driver immediately child locks her inside, because obviously you get into the Uber, you get into the back seat usually. Child locks her inside, and Samantha, thinking this was her Uber, whether she realized it or not, was now locked inside the car, and that's the last time that she was ever seen. So her friends had already gone, and Samantha was still waiting. Her actual Uber ended up, pulling up, circling the block once or twice, couldn't find her, and canceled her Uber. So this black Impala that she went into, like I said, was not her Uber driver. And it drove off into the night with her. She was locked in the car and she couldn't get out. Now, the next day, her friends are not able to get in contact with her, her friends and her boyfriend. They're not able to find her, but they can tracked each other on their phones, and they saw Samantha's phone, traveling the opposite direction of her apartment. And it was eventually powered off. And so it headed up towards Clarendon County, which is about 60 some miles away. Now, it powered off at an intersection at Montgomery Ave and South Ott Road, which, again, they couldn't track it further after that because it was powered down. Now, this immediately worries Samantha's friends. At first, they were like, oh, she must have left her phone in the Uber.
And this is all the night of?
This is like the next morning.
Okay.
So her friends are like, oh, she must have left her phone. Like, we can see her phone in the Uber that she took, right? Not knowing that was actually Samantha with her phone. But then one of her friends was able to get into her email, and they saw that her Uber was canceled. So now they know that wasn't her phone in an Uber car. Like, she didn't leave her phone in the Uber. She never actually got into the Uber. And so now they're really worried. She also didn't show up for work the next morning, and that's when they were like, okay, something's wrong. So her friends immediately go to Columbia Police and report her missing. And police immediately start a missing person investigations on Friday afternoon. So that was a Thursday night that they had gone out, which was March 28th into March 29th when she went missing. That morning, March 29th, is when they filed the missing persons report, and they opened an investigation. Now, police start working on this missing persons investigation, and meanwhile, up in Clarendon County, the sheriff's office up there is getting a call to come to a crime scene with the DOA. So upon arrival, the Clarendon County Sheriff's Office, they determine by the clothes and the description that their DOA is Samantha Josephson. So now they're putting two and two together. They have us contact Columbia Police and say, we found your missing person. It's the same as our dead body that we found. Samantha had been found by two hunters, actually, up in Clarendon County, off the dirt road, but well off the beaten path of the dirt road. And that's why she was found by the hunters, because it was an area that wasn't necessarily easy to get to, or just this side of the road. Yeah,
less people traveling now.
Right. And probably not expected that somebody is going to walk upon, such a area that's so secluded. And so somebody actively tried to clearly get rid of her body. Now, the scene was off the beaten path, and her body was found in this, brutal state. She was stabbed up to 120 times. They found the murder weapon to be a knife that had two blades. So kind of what I'm picturing is literally a double-edged sword. And this was, so painting this scene, sheriff's office arrives. They're, in this kind of deserted area off a dirt road. They have a dead body who was stabbed 120 times.
120?
120 times. And That's only an approximate amount, though, because the pathologist who was doing the exam said he could count up to 120, but couldn't get the exact amount because there were so many of them. Like the one crossed with another.
And there are two different blades, so
right.
I'd imagine that would make it harder to track.
Right.
Holy shit, 120.
Yes. All because she got into the wrong car. Like she thought it was her Uber. It was not her Uber.
Yeah.
Now, most of the stabs were focused around, her upper torso. So her head, her neck, her chest, and her back. And so being that the person that was stabbing her was stabbing such vital areas of her body, she was stabbed, it penetrated all the way to her brain, meaning it went, either her skull was cracked or it went through her skull to get to her brain. And they also stabbed fatal parts of her neck as well. So any one of these blows would have been her cause of death right there. Mm-hmm. Now, this is super gruesome, but so the average person has about a gallon of blood in their body. When they found her, there was 1.3 tablespoons of blood left in her body. Like completely gone. And which obviously makes sense when you're stabbed that many times.
Yeah.
But, so here's the question is, where did the rest of her blood end up? Because this is the scene that they're finding her at is not the scene that she was murdered at. Uh-huh. And being that there was only 1.3 tablespoons of blood left in her body, the examiners actually had a hard time like running their routine tests because they didn't have enough blood to test. So they did what they could, but they had to be like super scarce with how and what they tested because there just was not a lot there. Now, police then began looking at these surveillance tapes that were outside the bars and street cams, whatever it may be, neighboring businesses. And they found her getting into that black Impala at around 2 a.m., a little after 2 a.m. So the police immediately start looking for this black Impala. And they actually pretty quickly reach out to the public and they tweet out a photo to help find this car, to help the public also have their eye out for this car and try and locate it down. Again, this is all happening on Friday. Now, Saturday, around 3 a.m., that same type of black Impala 2017 was spotted by a on-duty police officer driving around the same bars in the area where Samantha went missing from. He was only a couple blocks from the bar he had picked her up from. So police they noticed this vehicle, and not knowing, obviously we don't have like a license plate or anything from the video, but they were like, okay, I'm going to pull it over, check it out, make sure it's all good. Similar to the, remember the Kalamazoo Uber case? So police pull over the vehicle and...
Wait, they didn't have a license plate though?
Oh, everything I saw said they did not have a license plate.
Okay, so the footage wasn't good enough at the...
Yeah, if you look at the pictures of the footage, like it's super, super grainy.
Okay.
Whether they were able to enhance it and get a partial plate maybe, but they saw that this was at least a 2017 black Impala around the same area. So they pulled the vehicle over. The driver immediately fled the scene. He fled on foot, and police are like, okay, first of all, that's a really bad sign. And second of all, they were able to catch up with him, take him down, take him into custody. Now, police examine the car and they find blood in the car. So now they're onto it, and they test the blood, and it was a match for Samantha's. So they've got their guy. Along with the blood in the car, so this is obviously we've got our murder scene right here. Along with the blood in the car, there was germicide, there was bleach, there was wipes. This was a clear sign of an attempt to clean up. And when I say like they found blood in the car, again, when they found her, she only had 1.3 tablespoons left in her body. The rest of her blood was not found because there was it wasn't soaked in blood. So this was with the germicide, the bleach, the wipes and everything, it was clearly he tried to clean it up. Mm-hmm. Now, this car belonged to Nathaniel Rowland, who was 24 years old, and he was from Clarendon County. And Rowland was, like I said, he was taken into custody. He was immediately charged with kidnapping and murder. And So, like I said, Roland was from Clarendon County. Now they map this all out and they see that Samantha's body happens to be found about 5 miles from Roland's family home. So now this makes sense to, why her phone was traveling up that way, why she was found up way, 60 some miles from where she actually was. And this actually, they use, later, they look at the cell phone pings from both their cell phones to track their locations during this time. With all of this, so they, like I said, they charged with kidnapping and murder. They immediately go to trial. Well, not immediately. They decide to go to trial. Trial began July 20th of this year. So like last month, not even a couple weeks ago. Now, the trial lasted about a week or so. And during the duration of the trial, a lot of information and details and evidence came out where it was, again, we have this kind of situation where it's kind of a whodunit, but we know who did it, right? So
why would it be kind of?
Just because they still have to prove that it was him.
Yeah.
Even though we've got all this evidence, it's all, somewhat circumstantial. Because, and this actually aids in the defense side on Roland's end, because prosecution actually brings a total of almost 3 dozen witnesses to the stands. Experts, you name it. The defense brings none. Not a super great sign. Now, the murder weapon, again, was presented to be that knife, which had been found with Samantha's blood on it. And this was found, so the cleaning supplies that were found in his car, obviously there was blood found in his car. Then in a trash behind a friend's house, behind his girlfriend's house, Roland's girlfriend's house, trash came behind it. There was, bloody rags, bloody evidence all throughout the trash. He found they found all the cleaning supplies that he had used to clean up. So clean up in the car. That's where they found the knife, is in the trash as well. Also had Samantha's blood on it. There was a pair of gloves that had both Roland and Samantha's DNA on it. So, this is kind of your smoking gun right here. You think it's the closed case. The only problem was the defense argued that it was circumstantial, and they actually asked the charges to be thrown out because it was circumstantial due to not being able to prove 100% that Roland was the one who kidnapped and murdered Samantha. So this was kind of a bold ask. Obviously, we've got all this evidence.
That sounds insane.
Yeah, all this evidence, all this surveillance tape, DNA, blood found behind his girlfriend's car, all this stuff. The thing that was aiding on their side was in the surveillance video, you could not see who was driving the car. So you could see the car and they, tracked it back to Roland, but in the video, you can't actually see Roland driving. Mm-hmm. So, they could argue, somebody else was driving the car that night. The other part that goes in the defenses, on their side is that, so it was said that Samantha fought her attacker and she fought back and she tried to defend herself. However, because Roland's DNA was not found on Samantha's body. Also, Roland did not have defensive wounds on himself. If she was fighting her attacker, scratching, clawing, doing whatever she can, he did not have any of those defensive wounds, and they found him that, they had taken him into custody that very next day. So this does aid in the fact that, it makes it a little bit harder to prove. But again, we have all of this other evidence that obviously leads to the fact that he did it. Now, in addition with all the bloody stuff that was found in the trash, police also found Samantha's blood was on a sock and a bandana of Roland's. So again, we've kind of got our smoking gun here as far as, his DNA might not be on her, but her blood is on him. Now, the judge rejected their ask for the charges to be thrown out. The cell phone pings were used to track their location and see that they were, traveling when and where they were traveling that night, both Roland and Samantha. It was also discovered that Samantha's credit cards, so after she had gotten in the car, her credit cards were attempted to be used at multiple ATMs. And somebody, which police believe that surveillance video shows this, and that Roland tried to sell her cell phone as well to try and get rid of it. And again, when you read into this case, her friends that were tracking the phone, it stopped tracking because it was powered down. So, which was more intentional than some other ways it could have gone off signal, whether she turned her location off or whatnot. So he had tried to sell her cell phone. He had tried to use her credit cards. The judge denied the request for the charges to be thrown out, and the jury went into deliberation. Now, the jury only took a little over an hour to deliberate, which when you see all these cases, obviously this case is a pretty open and shut case, but only taking a little over an hour for these very serious charges is kind of a pretty sure sign that everybody believes that he did it. Mm-hmm. And they did. They came back with a guilty verdict on all charges of kidnapping and murder, and Roland was sentenced to life in prison without parole, which is where he now is and will sit for the rest of his life.
Yeah, that's a brutal story. I mean, you hear, now after you said it, I do remember this, because I remember it turned into such a big thing where like people, I mean, it's unfortunate that it had to be the lesson, but it turned into a lot of people did kind of, a lot of people became more aware of their surroundings when getting into Ubers after this. I remember. Yeah. Right. It was like a groundbreak. Like it changed the way people used this mode of transportation.
Right. People started checking a lot closer. People started, changing how they ask when they get in.
And Uber started asking you too. Like that's like, I noticed that a lot too. Like you walk in, they say, they say your name right away. Yeah. Ellie, whatever. Yeah. So I do remember this one, and you're right. Obviously, it's not. This guy was a scumbag clearly, and he was driving around. Who knows if he was intending to grab another person the next day.
That's the only thing that is kind of, I guess, a missing piece in this case is like a motive. Yeah. This guy, was driving around the area that night. He was obviously driving around the area the very next night. Like, is that what he was looking to do? Yeah. He already had the cleaning supplies with him. He had the knife with him. So like, I guess I don't know.
Did they say if there was like a sexual factor? Did you say that? Sorry.
I didn't see anything that alluded to anything that she was sexually assaulted, that she was found like undressed or anything. I didn't see any of that. So I don't know, like it would be very interesting. And again, being that this is such a recent case and trial literally just finished up like a week or so ago, more details may come out regarding a motive. But, again, this isn't like, this had nothing to do with Uber doing anything wrong, but it did make people, like you said, start to think twice and start to be extra careful about whose car they're getting into. Are they getting into the right one? Is this, taking safety precautions and whatnot? And it wasn't Samantha's fault either. I mean, she got into the car that she truly thought was her Uber.
Everyone's been there. Like it's 2 a.m. Like you just want to get home. It sucks. Like,
honest mistake. And
she got into the worst situation imaginable. Yeah. And she was locked in. Like she got, she was captured.
Yeah. Like how scary, right?
Yeah. Right. Like she didn't get physically thrown into a locked vehicle. Right. She willingly went in, but she didn't know.
Right. She had no idea. And that's,
and I'll say this too. Who knows? You're right. Maybe it'll come out when everything goes through. But looking at the pictures right now, his mugshot at the time versus how he looks now in court is drastically different.
It is. It's like hugely different. And granted, yes, there was 2 years in between all, COVID and all of that stuff. Because this happened in 2019. His trial just happened in 2021. But still, there's
was he going through it difference at the time? Like, was that the motive? Right. He was tried to sell the phone. Was he
Maybe he was
looking for
in
money
debt
yet?
for somebody. Maybe he had mental health problems. Maybe he
drug
was,
issues. Who knows?
yeah. I don't know. I'd be very, very interested. Like, that's the one thing that is missing from this case is like, yes, we have all the evidence that, points to him and proves that he does it. The jury convicted him, but there was no like, what are your means behind this? Like, what is going through your mind that is what you're out doing on a weekend or Thursday, Friday night, just preying on innocent people. And it's terrible. And I don't know. It's odd, right? Because not only did he have, like, he had his whole little murder kit with him in his car. So he was, this was clearly premeditated, but it wasn't premeditated directly towards Samantha. Like, that was kind of a crime of opportunity in that sense, where it was like, oh, let me either look for somebody who I can convince I'm their Uber, or, somebody who's overly intoxicated. Like, he just kind of, like, it doesn't seem like he was targeting.
Yeah, if it wasn't Samantha, it was going to be someone else.
Right.
Which makes me think, like, I'm also confused too. Like, well, what if a guy jumped in?
Right.
Like, but he told him to get out because obviously maybe it would have been a lot
harder
to fight off. But if
Yeah.
it wasn't sexually motivated, like, I don't know. Was he ready to murder? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like there's so many question marks around that, and the fact that he was like driving around again the same area the next night. Like, was he planning on doing it again, and then just happened to get caught, or what was? Who knows if he wouldn't have gotten caught? Like, who knows what else would have happened?
Yeah, no, you're right. And you said it off the top of the show, and you weren't specifically referring to them because I'm sure her friends felt horrible and they never wanted this to happen. But it's just it's unfortunate. But I think it also turned into that too, where like people do look out for people getting in these cars more. And
yeah. And I mean, her friends were super smart for, like, they tracked each other on their phones. They knew how to get into her email. Like, they immediately noticed when she went missing. They were all very, very concerned. It was just, I think it kind of gets into that situation where, like, like everybody's leaving a bar, like people are flooding out into the streets, getting in their Ubers or taxis, getting home somehow. And it's like, oh, I'm going to take my Uber back to my apartment. I'm going to take my, and like, you don't really think much of it until something like this happens, right? Like, I do not get into Ubers alone because I know that, like, if an attacker is looking for somebody, like, I'm probably a prime target, especially at 2, 3, 4 a.m. Right. And so it's one of those situations where, like, you never think anything bad is going to happen until it does happen. And then you see the danger in what you, like, hindsight is 20/20 when you see the danger in it. So it did, if anything came out of this case, it did make people be more careful and be more aware of whose cars they're getting into. And
obviously still doesn't make it right what happened to her and how her family feels and how her friends feel. I feel horrible for them. That's brutal. So, all right. That's it for today. That's today's True Crime Friday. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll be back next week. We'll see you then.